good to see you again. Good morning, everybody. This side of the world, it's in the evening. It's around 7 in the evening, 6 in the evening. We're about to have dinner and sleep. But it's good to have you here. And my story, I'm going to give you my story. My Thursdays I spend my Thursdays with women who have gone through sexual violence. It's pretty much my life. And today I didn't make to go because I wanted to be here for this conversation, to continue this conversation. And it's something that I hold deep down in my heart because of my experiences, the things I've been through. I talk about teenage pregnancy and sexual violence. And my story starts when I was very, very young, when my dad and mom separated. I was barely 4 years old. Mom just left us with dad. And at 7 years old, my dad passed on. He had an accident and he passed on. So I was left in the hands of my relatives. And that's when my relatives started sexually molesting me. I was as young as 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, and 10 years. I was sexually molested. And I became this child, a very reserved child, because there was no one to tell and there was no one to talk to. And my dad's brothers, I've got scars all over my body. I used to be beaten, whipped, whipped with sticks, and I have scars to show for it. And so I became this reserved child. And at 15, I met the only man who said, I love you. And those words are very priceless at that time because I had never heard them from anyone else. And I keep saying that I fell hook, line, and sinker. I was still in school. And at 16, I was having my first child. At 18, I was having my second child. And it's very hard in Africa being a teenage mother, and especially when you don't have anyone to hold you. And I got married. It was a marriage of convenience. There was no option. He had to marry me because here we are. We have children, and that is it. We need to. Life needs to continue. And I didn't know how to bring up my children because I was a child myself. But life continued. And then my ex-husband would have affairs, even with my friends. I would see him holding hands with my friends. And at one time, he started bringing women in our marital bed. Women, some of them I knew them. And by this time, I was pregnant with our first child. And it was so hard for me. I had a problematic pregnancy. And so I was on bed rest. At this time, I was 24 years old. And I've had enough. I had had enough, but I didn't know where to go. And he would bring even 2 women, 3 women at the same time and do things with them, of course, have sex with them in our bed. And it was so hard for me. And at one time, he came in the wee hours of the morning and with 2 women. I was pregnant. I was 5 months pregnant. And I decided that was enough because they were mourning and the children were here and I was also pregnant. He came out, he slapped me, and I remember I rolled down the stairs and I just decided now this is it, I need to leave. And that is how I left. And with the little money I had, I started doing business and the business did so well until I gave birth to my daughter. And by this time, I continued with my business. And unfortunately, in the middle of it, I bought a second-hand phone. The business was doing so well. And it was a stolen phone. I didn't know it was a stolen phone. I bought it from a vendor, from a friend. And I was tracked down, arrested, and taken to court, slapped with a cash bill of Kenya shillings 150, and I was not worried because I had that money in my account. So what I did is I called my best friend back then, and I told her go because when you in prison, when you're arrested, you can't just go withdraw money. And I called her and I told her, do this, take my card, go to the bank and withdraw, go to the ATM, withdraw money, and come and pay bill for me. She disappeared with my money, completely disappeared with my money, and I had to be in prison. I had to be in prison for 1 year, 8 months, without knowing what my children were eating or what they were doing or who they were with, because I absolutely had no one. I had left them in the outside world. And after a near 1 year, 8 months, my case was withdrawn for lack of evidence, and I had to go back home. At this time, when I went back home, I had lost everything. No one wanted to be associated with me. My children were living with friends. Today they are here, tomorrow they are here. And nobody wanted to associate with me. Absolutely the stigma. Now you've been in prison, you're a bad person. And so that is how I started a life of living in the streets. I would live in the streets, and we would sleep in the streets with the children. Sometimes I would give my children to friends, and they would stay with friends as I slept on the street, because I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. And that is how I was gang raped for the first time. And I keep saying this, when these men were from a drinking spree or some of stealing spree, and there were like 20 of them, but I was gang raped by about 12 or 15 of them. I can't remember very well. And they would cock the gun in my mouth. They did all sorts of things. They sodomized me. They did all sorts of things badly, and they left me for the dead. It was night. For almost 4 hours they were there, and in the morning people just found me and took me to hospital. And the first thing the doctors did, they took me to theater. I had an operation because I was badly sodomized, and I had an operation. That was in 2016, after coming from prison in 2015. And the whole of 2016, I was healing. And at that time, a friend of mine I had met in prison looked for help for me, and certain people just helped me. They would pay for my rent, and my children went back to school. So 2016, I concentrated on healing. And at this time, the same friend had started an organization that dealt with women who had come out of prison. And she told me, Celine, since you're now healing, at this time my physical wounds were healed, but deep inside I still held on to that pain. In as much as I saw a counselor, I wasn't letting go of that pain. And in 2017, I went back. I went to work for her organization, and I was happy because now I could put something on the table for my children. I'm able to bring up my children. And on December 2017, on my way home after work, just a few meters from my gate, a few meters, very, very few meters, I found some guys sitting, and they said hi, and I hide back. I thought it was at night at around 9:30, and I said hi. I thought these were people who knew me, and as I said hi, they said stop. I asked them, why are you asking me to stop? They said that we said you stop, and my instinct told me remove your handbag and give it to them. But they said we don't need your handbag, we don't need your money. One of them came on my left side and the other one on my right side, and they asked me to follow them. And they said, if you meet someone on the way and you talk to them, we will kill both of you. He had a gun slung over his shoulder. And I followed them to a thicket, 6 of them. And when we got to that thicket, they told my clothes, and they gang raped me again, and they sodomized me again for almost 3 hours. And at one point, I felt so much pain that I lost conscience. And after around that time is when after they left, I woke up, and they had put my bag on my head on my bag. I pulled my handbag and I felt for my phone, and I called my sister-in-law, and I told her what was happening, and I told her they had put sticks in me, and I just couldn't remove the sticks, and I told my sister-in-law, this has happened and they've put sticks in me. You guys come and get me. And my sister-in-law came with people, and I was taken to a police station and to the hospital. I was admitted at the hospital, and I was given drugs to prevent HIV, hepatitis, and all those things. And I was given a counselor. And at one point, I was also given a psychiatrist because my mental health was not well. I was bordering between hallucinations, madness, and all those sorts of things after going through all that. But I was not healing the inner wounds. I had this anxiety attack, panic attack. I had withdrawal symptoms, everything. And, but I really wanted to move on with life. And so I went back to work. I, I pretended I was okay, but deep inside me, I knew I was not okay. 2018, I went back to work. At this time, I was coaching at the same prison I was in with the same organization on April 2018. And this time, when I was coaching, talking to those women, I knew that I was lying because I would put up a smile, but deep inside, I was this hurting woman who had so much in her. I was a time bomb waiting to explode. And I remember on April, there was this program that I was coaching on that was going for 1 month, and it ended on April 27, 2018. And the whole of that week, the next week, we were not going to work. We had an off. So there's this friend of mine who had come from Greece, and she told me, Celine, I have not seen you. Just come and have lunch with us because I'm going back to Greece in the evening, and you can come with your children. And the whole day, we spent the whole day with her, and she left in the evening. My children said they were going to visit my aunt because my auntie was also there. They left with my aunt. So I went back home alone, and I took a shower and slept. And in the middle of the night, I just saw flashlights in my bed, and my mind just went blank. I didn't know what to think of, what to say. I didn't want to feel anything because my mind was so used to pain that I had this defense mechanism of shutting down. And I thought these people are going to take me to that place where they took me last time, and this time they're going to kill me because it's raining so hard. But then they pulled me from my bed, they took me to my sitting room, and they tore my night dress, and again they gang raped me, they sodomized me again. This is the third time. And at this point, I was not feeling pain. I was so damn to pain. I was not feeling pain. I was angry. I was bitter. I was everything. And for hours, they did that. And when they left, they took a rolling. They broke my glass and they cut my hand. They strangled me. And then they took a rolling pin and they put it in me. And then they left. And I remember when they left, I was just there. I didn't know what to think, and I started asking God questions, and I asked him, really, what do you want? Why you could have let them kill me because it's so shameful, it's so embarrassing, it's so hard on me. And but then again, I called some people. They took me to the police station again. We reported, and the first thing the policeman asked me was, "What were you wearing?" And I was like, "Really? At night? What was I wearing at night? And does it even matter this time?" And I was taken to hospital, and again I was admitted for 2 months. I was in hospital, and I was also taken to theater because this time I was so damaged. But then I said I was healing the outer wounds, but I was not healing the inner wounds. And so when I came from hospital, alone in the house, I would draw the curtain, make my house dark, and sleep the whole day and night without talking to anyone. I had moved from that area completely. And when my children went to school, that was my life, was pretty much my life. And sometimes when I went for my clinic, I would just get a panic attack in the middle of the road. It's only God who didn't allow me to have an accident at that time. But then I knew that if I didn't heal, there was no way I was going to live like this. And I remember crying out to God and telling him, if you don't heal me, no one else can heal me, because that was too much pain from my childhood. I needed to heal wounds from my childhood, from my teenagehood to adulthood. And I knew that no amount of counseling without guidance from God would just take me there. But at one point, I decided I would look for help wherever I got help. I would look for help. And at that time, my friends had betrayed me. They had said things about me. Things were not good. But then also, God brought people in my life who helped me walk this journey. I had a very good support group that helped me walk through this, because so many times I would just buy poison to commit suicide, but I was not able to do it. So many times I would decide tonight is the time that I'm going to commit suicide. Tonight is the night I'm going to die. But then I would also think about my children and the kind of life I have lived, and I didn't want them to live that kind of life. That kept me from committing suicide. And let's say that God worked with me, and the hospital and everyone, and also my husband. Right now I'm married. I got married beginning of this year, and he's a man that God brought in my life that has really worked with me. He has helped me, and I really needed. I had this low self esteem, and I needed to be loved, as in to be shown how to love and to be loved. I didn't know how to do it, considering how I have been brought up. But I keep saying that each day is a new experience for me, because I'm learning a lot from people around me. I'm learning a lot from my husband and my friends, the new friends God has brought to me. And I can say for sure that in as much as I experienced that kind of pain, I'm somewhere. I'm in the middle, because right now I know how to love. Right now I know how to have conversations and relationships with people. And it's a journey that I'm walking, and it's a journey that I'm walking with others. My day is full of calls from women who are going through issues. Sometimes I spend the day with women who have gone through domestic violence, sexual violence, and they have been hurt, molested. Like right now, there's a girl I'm working with. She's 18 years. She was molested. She was sodomized. Her friend took her to a party, and then she called men on her, and then they gang raped her and they sodomized her. She had not been able to speak, to tell her story, but sitting down with her, she talks to me. She tells me things, and then I've also taken her to a safe house. She's in a safe house, and that's pretty much my story. And what I want to people to know is that in Africa, it's so hard for a person who has been raped, because the people will keep asking you, like, what were you wearing? What were you doing at that time? Why were you walking at this path? And so many people are going through issues, and they are not able to speak about it because of the stigma that they are facing from other people. People would say, this happened to me, and you will be I have been stigmatized. I've been asked, why are you saying this? Why are you talking about this? You're not supposed to talk about it. But I'm so resilient. I keep telling my story for others to know that if Celine did it, if Celine went through all this, I can still stand, and I can still rise, and I can still be someone, and I can still make a difference in the society. That's pretty much my story.